Good afternoon and thank you for joining us on FutureTV. I'm Linda Tamim and these are today's top stories. Ministers tackle citizens' day-to-day issues during today's cabinet session, while Change and Reform Bloc lawmakers propose a draft law for a constitutional amendment to hold direct presidential elections. The Syndicate Coordination Committee vows to continue its fight for the new salary scale, despite signs of weakening resolve among civil servants. An Israeli military aircraft killed 3 top Hamas commanders in southern Gaza as the UN expresses concern over the breach of a humanitarian ceasefire in the Gaza Strip. Change and Reform Bloc lawmakers have proposed a draft law for a constitutional amendment to have direct presidential elections in Lebanon. MP Ibrahim Kanaan, who proposed the draft law on behalf of the bloc's members, is scheduled to hold a press conference on Friday to inform the public opinion about it. For his part, Progressive Socialist Party leader MP Walid Jumblat voiced his consent to a technical extension of the parliament's tenure, calling on the rival political parties to learn from the past. On another note, ministers pledged to address pressing day-to-day issues ahead of today's cabinet session, including waste treatment. Also among the vital issues on the 59-item agenda was that of Lebanese soldiers and policemen captured by Islamist militants during gun battles in the Bekaa Valley border town of Arsal. Interior Minister Nuhad al-Mashnouk said the government was handling the hostage issue with utmost secrecy, while Health Minister Wael Abu Faour praised Prime Minister Tamam Slam's role in the hostage crisis. The Syndicate Coordination Committee has vowed to continue its fight for the new salary scale, despite signs of weakening resolve among civil servants, with low participation in the general strike and protests called for today. In parallel to the strike, the SEC held a demonstration at the Economy Ministry in downtown Beirut. However, the protests failed to draw more than approximately 100 attendees. Speaking at the protest, SEC head Hanna Gharib said the unity of the SEC had confronted the political party's efforts to create division among its groups. Accusing the political class of trying to destroy the union's independent identity, he stressed that among the members of the SEC, many people have left their parties or defied their pressures. Gharib said the unions were currently evaluating the situation and would take legal measures against the passing certificates to prevent their legalization by Parliament. Labour leaders have refused to drop their demands in response to Électricité du Liban's threat to sue them for blocking its facilities' entrances and defaming its executives during 2 weeks of protests. A statement issued by the company accused Lebanon Makhoul, head of the workers' union, along with Bilal Bajou and Ahmed Shaib, of closing EDL's doors, barring customers from entering and defaming the institution's board of directors. Bajou, Shaib and Makhoul have on different occasions publicly attacked EDL head Kamal Hayek, accusing him of graft and fraud. EDL's administration had sent a letter to the State Prosecution Office on Tuesday, asking for security forces to intervene to end the contract workers' protests in the firm's buildings. Protesting contract workers are demanding full-time employment for each of the nearly 2,000 contract workers, in line with a law passed by Parliament in April. But EDL has only agreed to hire 897. Mironite Patriarch Bashar Da'i has called on the international community to help Iraq's minorities, asking the country's Christians to stick to their roots and not leave the country. Da'i, currently visiting the Kurdish capital of Erbil, said it was the international community's responsibility to protect the marginalized peoples of the region, stressing that it is unacceptable to allow terrorist organizations to eliminate entire communities in the 21st century. The Patriarch urged Iraq's minorities to insist on staying in their land, promising to do his best to convince political actors to put efforts to helping them. The Committee of Muslim Scholars hints that it might suspend its mediation in the ongoing negotiations to free the soldiers and policemen believed to be held hostage by jihadists from ISIS and Jabhat al-Nusra. The hostages were seized during clashes between Islamist gunmen and the Lebanese army in Harsal earlier this month. Committee member Adnan Amama said they're waiting for Lebanon's official answer to put the demands forward by the militants to see whether the committee will continue or suspend their mediation. The list of demands reportedly includes the release of Islamist prisoners from the Rumia prison and improved treatment of Syrian refugees in Lebanon. Another rumored demand is the withdrawal from Hezbollah from Syria. Israeli military aircrafts have killed 3 top Hamas commanders in southern Gaza, inflicting a heavy blow on the movement's armed wing after failing to kill its top military chief. Today's attack came a day after Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu said that Israel's military offensive in the Gaza Strip may be an extended operation since the peace talks in Cairo broke down on Tuesday after Israel accused Hamas of violating the ceasefire. Israeli defense forces have resumed airstrikes on the Gaza Strip. At a press conference, Netanyahu linked Hamas to the Islamic State militants operating in Iraq and Syria, calling them branches of the same tree. Hamas has expressed willingness to return to the negotiations, hoping to end the 7-year blockade of Gaza by Israel and Egypt, while Israel, who wants assurances that Hamas will give up their arms, say no talks are possible as long as rocket fire from Gaza to Israel continues.
Welcomes the destruction of the declared chemical weapons material on board the U.S. maritime vessel Cape Ray. This marks a significant achievement in the international community's efforts to eliminate the chemical weapons program of the Syrian Arab Republic following the framework agreement between the Russian Federation and the United States of America. The Secretary General appreciates the cooperation of the government of the Syrian Arab Republic and commends those member states that provided crucial support to this process, as well as the United Nations OPCW joint mission for its leadership and commitment. He urges the Syrian Arab Republic to build on this historic milestone in order to ensure the full elimination of its chemical weapons program, including the destruction of the remaining chemical weapons production facilities.
And coming up next, former U.S. President George W. Bush takes up the ALS Ice Bucket Challenge. More after the break. Welcome back. U.S. President Barack Obama says the beheading of American journalist James Foley by the Islamic State group will not stop the United States from carrying out airstrikes against the group. Obama strongly condemned ISIS after the release of a grotesque video showing the beheading of Foley. The killing of Foley has received strong reactions from the international community, with French President François Hollande calling it the most serious situation since 2001, the year of the September 11 terrorist attacks.
Today, the entire world is appalled by the brutal murder of Jim Foley by the terrorist group ISIL. Jim was a journalist, a son, a brother, and a friend. He reported from difficult and dangerous places, bearing witness to the lives of people a world away. He was taken hostage nearly 2 years ago in Syria, and he was courageously reporting at the time on the conflict there. Jim was taken from us in an act of violence that shocks the conscience of the entire world. He was 40 years old, one of 5 siblings, the son of a mom and dad who worked tirelessly for his release. Earlier today I spoke to the Foleys and told them that we are all heartbroken at their loss and joined them in honoring Jim and all that he did. Now, Jim Foley's life stands in stark contrast to his killers. Let's be clear about ISIL. They have rampaged across cities and villages, killing innocent, unarmed civilians in cowardly acts of violence. They abduct women and children and subject them to torture and rape and slavery. They have murdered Muslims, both Sunni and Shia, by the thousands. They target Christians and religious minorities, driving them from their homes, murdering them when they can, for no other reason than they practice a different religion. They declare their ambition to commit genocide against an ancient people. So ISIL speaks for no religion. Their victims are overwhelmingly Muslim, and no faith teaches people to massacre innocents. No just God would stand for what they did yesterday and what they do every single day. ISIL has no ideology of any value to human beings. Their ideology is bankrupt. They may claim out of expediency that they are at war with the United States or the West, but the fact is they terrorize their neighbors and offer them nothing but an endless slavery to their empty vision and the collapse of any definition of civilized behavior. And people like this ultimately fail.
Ukraine says it has captured 2 armored vehicles belonging to the Russian military as it pushed on with a brutal offensive to snap the back of the pro-Moscow rebellion in the war-torn east. Fighting has intensified as Kiev ratcheted up its push to rout struggling insurgents ahead of a fresh round of diplomacy that will see the presidents of Russia and Ukraine meet next week for the first time in months. The push follows days of street battles and weeks of shelling. In Asia, search efforts are continuing in Japan for at least 7 people still missing after several landslides ripped through the suburbs of Hiroshima City early yesterday, killing 39 residents. Japanese media says over 2,500 military personnel, police and rescue workers and search dogs worked through the night to find those still trapped beneath rubble and collapsed homes. Former U.S. President George W. Bush has posted a recent Facebook video showing him taking the so-called ALS Ice Bucket Challenge, which aims to raise money and awareness about the degenerative disease, and dared former U.S. President Bill Clinton to do the same. The initiative involves people posting video of themselves being drenched in ice water and challenging others to also take the plunge. The Ice Bucket Challenge has been going viral on the internet and has included celebrities and other high-profile figures.
I've been challenged by several Americans to bring awareness to the ALS campaign. Woody Johnson, our daughter Jenna Bush Hager, Coach Jim Harbaugh, and recently Rory McIlroy. Now, to you all who've challenged me, I do not think it's presidential for me to be splashed with ice water, so I'm simply going to write you a check.
That check is for me. I don't want to ruin my hairstyle.
Now it's my privilege to challenge my friend Bill Clinton to the ALS challenge. Yesterday was Bill's birthday, and my gift to Bill is a bucket of cold water.
And on that cheerful note, we end our bulletin for today. Now for a reminder of our headlines. Ministers tackle citizens' day-to-day issues during today's cabinet session, while Change and Reform bloc lawmakers propose a draft law for a constitutional amendment to hold direct presidential elections. The Syndicate Coordination Committee vows to continue its fight for the new salary scale despite signs of weakening resolve among civil servants. An Israeli military aircraft killed 3 top Hamas commanders in southern Gaza as the UN expresses concern over a breach of humanitarian ceasefire in the Gaza Strip. Those are your top stories for today. I'm Linda Tamim, and I wish you all a very nice evening.